Evan Hale walked through the scrap yard like he always did, searching for old parts he could repair and sell. The place was huge, filled with broken machines, rusted metal, and piles of crashed ships. Most people avoided the yard because it smelled bad and looked dangerous. But Evan didn't mind. He had grown up fixing things. To him, every pile of junk held a small chance of treasure. It was late afternoon, and the sun was slowly sinking behind the mountains of twisted steel. Evan carried a metal detector in one hand and a small flashlight in the other. He planned to leave soon until he heard a sound. A faint, weak sound, almost like a cry. He stopped walking. At first, he thought it was just wind blowing through the broken ship hulls. But then he heard it again, the soft, shaky whimper of someone trying not to be heard. Evan's heart tightened. He had heard that same kind of cry years ago, during the Colony War, from wounded survivors hiding in rubble. It was the sound of fear, and of someone who had given up hope. He turned toward the noise and slowly walked between two piles of scrap. "Hello," he called out. "Is someone there?" No answer. But the whimper came again, a little louder this time, followed by the sound of something shifting, metal scraping lightly. Evan took a slow breath and followed the sound deeper into the scrapyard. He stepped over old panels, wires, and broken engines until he reached one of the older crash sites. A medium-sized alien shuttle lay torn open, its insides scattered across the ground. The cry came from inside the wreck. He raised his flashlight and walked closer. The beam fell across cracked walls, burnt seats, and shattered glass. Then he saw her. A girl. An alien girl. She was curled up in the corner of the broken shuttle, trembling. Her skin was light silver, faintly glowing in the dim light. Her hair, long and thin like soft wires, hung over her face. She looked young, maybe 15 or 16 in human years. Her clothes were torn and dirty. One of her arms was wrapped around her stomach, as if she was hurt. Evan froze. He had never seen a young alien like her before. The girl lifted her head. Her bright purple eyes widened with fear. When Evan took a single step closer, she pressed herself harder into the corner, as if trying to disappear. "It's okay," Evan said gently. He slowly lowered his flashlight so he wouldn't blind her. "I'm not here to hurt you."
She didn't speak.
She only watched him carefully, like a wild animal expecting a trap. Evan carefully looked around the shuttle. There were no other bodies, no signs of family, no supplies. It looked like someone dropped her here months ago and left her to die. His stomach twisted. How long had she been hiding? How had she survived? "Are you alone?" he asked softly. She stared, but still said nothing. Evan slowly crouched down, keeping a good distance, so she wouldn't panic. He spoke softly, calmly. "I don't know what happened to you, and I don't know who did this. But you don't have to stay here. It's cold. It's dangerous. You'll die out here." The girl flinched when he said die. Evan's voice softened even more. "Let me help you." Her eyes narrowed, confused, suspicious. She didn't believe him. She hugged her knees tightly, and her body shook again. She was terrified. Evan knew that if he moved too quickly, she might run deeper into the wreck, or worse, hurt herself trying to escape. So he took a slow breath and gently placed his backpack on the ground. He opened it and took out a water bottle, then rolled it toward her. The bottle stopped near her foot. The girl stared at it. Then, slowly, with shaking fingers, she reached out and grabbed it. She sniffed it first like she didn't trust what it was. Then she took a small sip. A second. A third. Evan smiled gently.
"See?
It's safe." She didn't reply, but her shaking eased just a little. He took out a small emergency blanket next and placed it on the ground. "If you're cold, you can take this. No one will take it from you." The girl's eyes flicked between him and the blanket. She reached out quickly, grabbed it, and wrapped it around herself. Her breathing slowed slightly. Evan's chest warmed with relief. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She looked frustrated, then lowered her head. Evan realized she might not know human language at all. "It's all right," he said gently. "We can figure it out later." He looked around again. The sun had almost disappeared, and the wind was getting colder. Leaving her here wasn't an option. If he walked away, she would never survive the night. Evan carefully extended his hand toward her. Not too close. Come with me. I'll take you somewhere safe. You won't have to hide anymore. For a long moment, she didn't move. She stared at his hand like it was something impossible, something she had never been offered before. Then slowly, she reached out her own hand. Her fingers trembled as they touched his. Evan gently closed his hand around hers. She was cold. Too cold. Good, he whispered. You're safe now. I promise. The alien girl stepped out of the broken shuttle for the first time. Her legs were weak, and she nearly fell, but Evan caught her. She looked up at him with tired, scared eyes, but there was something new in them too.
Trust.
Evan lifted her gently, carrying her out of the scrap yard. As they left the twisted metal behind, he knew one thing for certain. His life had just changed forever. Evan carried the alien girl through the dim evening light, her weight light, but her trembling constant. She clung to him with weak hands, as though afraid he might disappear if she let go. The path back to his home was quiet, filled only with the crunching of gravel and the soft hum of faraway machines from the town beyond the scrapyard. His house stood on the edge of the small colony settlement, a simple metal cabin with repaired walls, a solar roof, and a small garden he had grown from scraps. It wasn't fancy and it wasn't big, but it was safe. Safe was more than the girl had ever known. He pushed open the door gently with his shoulder. Warm light spilled out, along with the faint smell of stew he had cooked earlier. The girl lifted her head slightly, sniffing the air like she didn't understand what the scent meant. This is home, Evan said softly. My home. And yours now too if you want it. She did not answer, but her tense shoulders eased just a little. He carried her to the small couch and slowly set her down. She tightened the blanket around herself, watching the room with wide, cautious eyes. Every object, every chair, every tool, every light seemed to surprise her. Evan moved slowly, not wanting to overwhelm her. You're safe here. No one can hurt you. She watched his lips when he spoke, trying to understand. Her expression softened, showing a hint of calm. He went to the kitchen, filled a bowl with warm stew, and brought it over.
Here.
You need to eat. When he placed the bowl in front of her, she leaned forward and sniffed it the same way she had sniffed the water bottle. Then she looked at him, waiting. It's food, he explained. Safe. Good. He took a spoonful and ate it himself first. Then he offered her the spoon. Slowly, she reached out. Her hand shook as she brought the spoon to her mouth. She tasted it, paused, then took another bite. Then another. Soon, she was eating faster, almost desperately, as if she hadn't eaten real food in a long time. Evan didn't say anything. He simply sat near her, letting her eat at her own pace. When she finished, she let out a small, soft sound, a tiny that almost sounded like relief. Good, Evan said with a gentle smile. She looked at him, her purple eyes glowing softly under the room's warm light. For the first time, she didn't look afraid. After she ate, Evan fetched a small medical kit. I need to check your injuries, okay? He said the words slowly, pointing to her arm where she had been holding herself before. She frowned, not understanding the words, but she understood the gesture. She hesitantly lowered the blanket, revealing her side. Evan's breath caught. A bruise covered nearly half her ribs, dark blue and purple. He could also see cuts on her hands and legs. Old ones, new ones, some poorly healed. How long were you out there? He whispered. The girl lowered her eyes, her expression full of hurt memories she couldn't explain. Evan cleaned the cuts, wrapped her ribs, and applied ointment. She winced sometimes, but she didn't pull away. In fact, she watched him with a strange expression, not fear, but disbelief, as if she couldn't understand why someone was helping her. When he finished, he sat back. All done. She touched the bandages gently, surprised. He pointed to himself. Evan. Then he pointed to her. You. She blinked, confused. Then she hesitantly tapped her own chest. She opened her mouth and made a soft sound, almost like Ray. It wasn't clear if that was her name or just the closest sound she could make. Ray, he repeated warmly. Your name is Ray? The girl, Ray, tilted her head, then nodded once. Evans smiled. Nice to meet you, Ray. Ray stared at him quietly. Then, slowly, her lips curved upward in the smallest, shyest smile. It was hard to tell if she had ever smiled before, but this one was real. Gentle. Fragile. Night settled over the colony, and Evan prepared a small bed for her in his spare room. He placed soft blankets, a small lamp, and even an old stuffed toy he had found years ago, a round, fluffy creature with button eyes. He didn't know if she would like it, but it felt right. Ray stood at the doorway, holding the blanket around her shoulders, staring inside the room as if she had never seen a bedroom before. It's yours, Evan said softly. She stepped inside slowly, touching the corner of the bed, the lamp, and finally the soft toy. She pressed the toy gently and looked up at him, confused. It's okay, he said. It's for you. Ray hugged the toy close to her chest. Evan's heart softened. You can sleep, he said. I'll be right outside if you need anything. As he turned to leave, she made a small sound. Not a word, more like a soft call for attention. Evan looked back. Ray stared at him, her eyes shimmering with something he recognized very well. Fear of being alone. It's all right, he said. I'm not going far. She hesitated, then nodded slowly. He closed the door halfway, leaving a warm strip of light shining into the room. For a long time, Evan sat at the table listening. He heard her moving softly, settling into the blankets. And then, finally, he heard quiet breathing, calm and steady. She was asleep. For the first time in who knows how long, the alien girl slept in safety. And Evan knew, deep in his heart, that he had done the right thing. Whatever her past was, whatever danger she had escaped, she was part of his life now. And he would protect her, no matter what came next. Ray healed slowly over the next few weeks. At first, she hardly moved from her room. She walked softly, like someone afraid to disturb the ground. She watched everything Evan did, as if trying to understand what kind of world she had entered. She didn't know many words yet, but she learned quickly. She listened more than she spoke, perhaps because she had never truly spoken with anyone before. Evan didn't push her. He gave her space, kindness, and patience. He repaired machines in the workshop while she quietly sat nearby, observing with curious eyes. When he cooked, she watched how he cut vegetables, how he stirred the pot, how he tasted the food to make sure it was good. Sometimes she tried to copy him, though her movements were awkward and unsure. But every day, she grew stronger. The bruises faded from her skin. Her silver complexion brightened. Her steps became steadier. And the fear in her eyes slowly began to disappear. One morning, Evan found her in the backyard, standing barefoot on the soil, staring up at the sky. Her eyes glowed faintly in the rising sunlight. You like it out here? He asked. She turned to him and nodded. Sky big, she said carefully, forming one of her first clear English words. That it is, Evan said with a smile. Ray reached up toward the sky, as if feeling something he couldn't see. A soft pulse of light passed across her fingertips. Evan stared, amazed. He had seen devices glow before, but never a living being. Is that something your people do? He asked gently. Ray lowered her hand, looking conflicted, like she didn't know if she should show him more. Instead, she shook her head slowly, unsure of how to explain. Evan didn't push her. He only said, whatever it is, it's part of you. And it's okay. Ray looked relieved. As days passed, she began helping him in small ways. She would hand him tools, sweep the workshop floor, or arrange wires. Evan noticed she had a natural understanding of energy circuits. If he was working on a damaged power cell, she would gently point to the correct wire or tap the right spot, almost like she could feel the flow of energy inside the machine. You've got talent, Evan said cheerfully. Better than me, honestly. Ray blinked, then pointed shyly at herself. Good, she asked. Yes, Evans said warmly. Very good. She smiled, bigger this time. Her smiles were still small, still gentle, but they were becoming more frequent. They brightened the house more than the lights did. One afternoon, Evan took her to town for the first time. The colony wasn't crowded, just a few families, markets, and workers fixing equipment. People stared when they saw Ray. Some whispered. Others stepped aside quickly. Ray lowered her head, clutching Evan's sleeve. It's okay, he said softly. I'm here. When a group of miners approached, their expressions sharp and curious, Ray tensed. One of them grunted. Is that one of those off-world strays? Didn't know you were taking in aliens now, Hale. Evan stepped protectively in front of her. She's under my care. That's all anyone needs to know. The miner shrugged, raising his hands. Didn't mean anything. Just surprised. Ray peeked from behind Evan, watching the humans with cautious eyes. Evan leaned down and whispered, Not everyone is bad. You're safe with me. Ray nodded slowly. She stayed close while they bought supplies. By the time they walked home, she wasn't clinging quite as tightly. The sun warmed her silver skin, and for the first time, Evan saw her looking at other people without fear, just curiosity. That night, danger came. Evan was in the workshop repairing a motor when he heard footsteps outside, silent, slow, deliberate. Ray, who had been sitting near him, suddenly stiffened. Her eyes glowed brighter, a sign Evan now recognized as alarm. Before he could ask, the workshop door slammed open. A tall man stepped inside, one of the smugglers who often scouted the scrapyard illegally. His clothes were torn, and his eyes wild with desperation. In his hand was a small energy blade. Where is she? The smuggler snarled. The alien girl. I know you found her. Ray froze. Evan stepped in front of her instantly, blocking the man's view. Get out, Evan said, voice steady. You're trespassing. The smuggler pointed the blade at him. She's valuable, Hale. Her species sells for more than you make in a year. Don't play stupid. Evan's jaw tightened. I said get out. The man lunged. Ray gasped, and for a split second, Evan thought she would run. But she didn't. She moved.
Fast.
Before the blade could reach Evan, Ray darted forward with surprising speed. Her hand glowed bright blue as she grabbed the attacker's wrist. There was a sharp crack, energy snapping like lightning, and the man screamed, dropping the blade. He stumbled back, clutching his burned hand. What are you? He shouted. Ray didn't answer. She stood in front of Evan now, her body trembling but firm, her glowing eyes fixed on the attacker like a protective shield. The smuggler backed away, fear overriding his greed. This isn't over, he spat before running into the night. Silence filled the workshop. Ray turned slowly to Evan. Her hands were still glowing faintly, but her expression was terrified, not of the smuggler, but of what she had just done. She took a shaky step back. Evan reached out, gently placing his hands on her shoulders. Ray, you saved me. She blinked fast, trembling. Protect, Evan, she whispered in broken English. He pulled her into a gentle embrace. She leaned into him, her shaking slowing as she felt his steady heartbeat. Thank you, he said softly. You're safe. We both are. Ray closed her eyes, holding on to him. For the first time, Evan realized something had changed, not just in her strength, but in the bond growing between them. She wasn't just someone he had rescued. She was becoming part of his life, and she was willing to fight for him. For a few days after the smuggler attack, the house felt strangely quiet. Evan fixed the broken workshop door, replaced damaged tools, and kept a close watch on the area. Ray followed him everywhere, silent, alert, her glowing eyes scanning every shadow. She didn't leave his side unless he asked her to rest.
She was different now.
Not in a bad way, but in a way that made Evan realize she was no longer just a frightened girl trying to survive. She was protective, determined, and something deep inside her had awakened the moment she defended him. But peace never lasted long on the colony fringe. One evening, while Evan was sorting scrap pieces in the yard, he felt a strange vibration under the ground. It was subtle at first, barely noticeable. Then the air changed. The breeze grew sharper, colder. Birds stopped chirping. The world seemed to hold its breath. Ray stepped onto the porch, her hair lifting slightly, as if responding to invisible energy. Her silver skin brightened, and her eyes widened with fear he hadn't seen since the day he found her. "Ray," Evan said, taking a step toward her. "What's wrong?" She raised a trembling hand and pointed at the sky. A small ship was descending, sleek, dark, and built with a design Evan had never seen in human engineering. Its sides glowed faint violet, matching the color of Ray's eyes. The ship slowed, hovering above the clearing before landing softly on the ground outside the scrapyard. Evan's stomach twisted. "Your people," he whispered. Ray took a step back, shaking her head violently. "No, no, no," she whispered, her voice breaking. The ship opened. Two tall aliens stepped out, their features somewhat similar to Ray's: silver skin, glowing purple eyes, and elegant limbs that moved with fluid grace. But their expressions were cold, sharp, and stern. They wore armor with strange symbols glowing faintly across the chest. Ray stumbled backward, fear flooding her face. Evan rushed to her side. "Hey, it's okay. Maybe they're here to help you." Ray shook her head harder. "Not help. Not safe." Before Evan could question her, one of the aliens stepped forward, speaking in a language that sounded like soft chimes mixed with static. Ray flinched. The alien's tone carried command, not compassion. Evan didn't understand the words, but Ray did. She grabbed his arm. "They want take me back," she whispered. "Not family. Soldiers." The second alien activated a device on his wrist, projecting a hologram. Evan recognized the image instantly. It was Ray, younger, injured, and chained. The hologram flickered to show her escaping, her shuttle crashing, and a bounty placed on her return. Evan's blood turned cold. Ray wasn't just lost. She had escaped. The first alien pointed at her and then at the ship, ordering her to come forward. Ray stepped back behind Evan, gripping his shirt with trembling fingers. Evan raised his hands. "She's not going anywhere with you. She's safe here." The alien responded sharply, his tone icy. He took a step forward. Ray's panic exploded. Her eyes glowed bright blue, brighter than Evan had ever seen. "Evan, protect," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I will," Evan said. The alien soldiers moved quickly. One lifted his wrist and fired a thin energy chain that shot toward Ray like lightning. Evan instinctively shoved her aside. The chain smacked into the ground where she had stood, burning the dirt black. Ray pulled him back, her breath shaking. "Run." "No," Evan said firmly. "I'm not letting them take you." The aliens advanced again. Ray stepped forward before Evan could stop her. Her hands glowed fiercely, forming crackling blue energy between her palms. She let out a desperate cry and unleashed a powerful shockwave. The blast knocked both aliens backward several steps, sending dust swirling into the air. Evan stared in shock. He had seen her fight once, but this was far stronger. "Ray," he whispered. But the energy she used shook her entire body. She winced, clutching her stomach. She wasn't fully healed yet. The aliens recovered quickly. They spread out, trying to flank her. Evan grabbed a heavy metal rod from the ground. "Ray, stay behind me." But Ray pushed forward, shaking her head. "I protect." "Evan," she insisted. The aliens moved again, fast. Ray threw another blast of energy, hitting one square in the chest. He crashed into a pile of metal with a loud clang. But the second alien dodged, rushing forward with a glowing blade in his hand. Evan swung his metal rod. It clashed against the alien's blade with a sharp spark. His arms vibrated from the impact, but he held on. The alien shoved him back with incredible force. Evan fell hard, the rod slipping from his hands. Ray screamed his name and fired another blast, but the alien was faster. He dodged, grabbed her by the arm, and slammed her to the ground. Ray gasped in pain. "Ray!" Evan yelled, scrambling to his feet. The alien dragged her toward the ship. Ray struggled weakly, her strength fading. She reached out desperately toward Evan, tears filling her glowing eyes. "Evan, help," she whispered. Evan charged. He tackled the alien from behind, slamming him into the dirt. The alien swung his blade, but Evan grabbed his wrist and twisted with all his strength. They rolled across the ground, fighting fiercely. The alien struck him hard, knocking the breath from his lungs. But Evan refused to let go. With one final push, he kicked the alien off and stumbled toward Ray. She lay on the ground, trembling, her energy flickering weakly around her hands. The first alien, who she blasted earlier, slowly rose from the pile of scrap, clearly furious. Ray pushed herself up just enough to crawl toward Evan. He knelt beside her, shielding her with his body. "Evan, don't leave me," she whispered. "Never," he said, wrapping his arms around her. The aliens approached again, but this time they hesitated. Ray's energy, though faint, flickered dangerously around both of them. Evan's defiance was clear. They exchanged a silent look. Then, slowly, they stepped back. One spoke again in their language, a final warning. Another hologram flashed briefly. A countdown. They were giving him time. Then they boarded their ship, and with a pulse of violet light, it lifted into the sky and disappeared. Ray collapsed against Evan's chest, shaking. He held her tight. "They'll come back," she whispered weakly. "For me." Evan brushed her hair from her face, his voice firm and gentle. "Then we'll be ready. I'm not letting anyone take you." Ray looked up at him, tears shimmering like stars. Her voice cracked with emotion as she whispered, "Thank you, Evan." And in that moment, their bond grew stronger than fear. Ray woke the next morning with a heaviness in her chest, both physical and emotional. Her body still ached from the fight, bruises forming like dark shadows against her silver skin, but the ache inside her heart was stronger. She had almost been taken away, torn from the one person who had ever cared for her. The thought of losing Evan made her entire body tremble. Evan, sitting at the edge of her bed, reached out and touched her shoulder gently. "How are you feeling?" Ray blinked up at him. His voice was soft, warm, full of worry. She had heard him speak many times, calming her, guiding her, teaching her. But today, something about his tone felt different. Or maybe it was her heart that had changed. "Evan," she whispered, her voice hoarse. He smiled. "I'm right here. We're safe." But Ray didn't feel safe, not because of the aliens who wanted her, but because of the fear she felt when she thought of losing him. That fear was new, sharp, and deeper than anything she had known before. She sat up slowly, wincing from the pain in her ribs. Evan moved closer instinctively, supporting her with an arm. The warmth of his touch spread through her like a gentle wave. She leaned into him without thinking, and he didn't pull away. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Ray whispered, Why you protect me?" Evan blinked, surprised. "Because you're important, Ray. Because you deserve safety. Because no one should go through what you went through." She stared into his eyes, searching for the truth behind his words. She saw no lies. Only kindness. Only care. Only him. Her chest tightened. "Before you," Ray said slowly, "only fear. Only running. Only pain." She touched his hand lightly. "You different. You make me feel warm." Evan's breath caught just a little. He didn't fully understand what she meant, but he could see the emotion in her glowing eyes. Something had been growing inside her. Something she had held inside ever since he found her in the wreck. He placed his hand gently over hers. "I'm glad I can make you feel safe." Ray nodded, but in her heart, she knew it was more than safety. Much more. Over the next week, the house felt calmer again, though both knew it wouldn't last. The aliens would return eventually. The holographic countdown made that clear. But even with danger looming, something new grew between them. Ray stayed close to Evan, not out of fear but out of choice. When he worked in the workshop, she helped him, their hands brushing more often than before. Each accidental touch made her pulse quicken. When they cooked, she tried to copy him, smiling when he praised her. Her smiles were becoming warmer, brighter, almost playful. One evening, she watched him fix a broken lamp. His hands were steady, his brow slightly furrowed, his voice humming softly with a tune he liked. Ray found herself staring at him for a long time. She remembered the first day she saw him. How she hid, thinking he was like everyone else who hurt her. But he hadn't hurt her. He had carried her, fed her, protected her, and stood between her and danger not once, but twice. He risked his life for her. Her heart thumped hard. She touched her chest lightly, confused. Her people didn't experience emotions the same way humans did. They were taught to be logical, controlled, obedient. Feelings like warmth, longing, or affection were seen as distractions, even weaknesses. But when she looked at Evan, she didn't feel weak. She felt alive. Later that night, Evan sat outside under the stars, taking a moment to think. Ray joined him quietly and sat beside him. The night was cool, and the sky glowed with distant planets. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Evan said. Ray didn't look at the sky. She looked at him. "Yes, beautiful." He chuckled softly. "You always find wonder in everything." "Not everything," she whispered. He glanced at her, puzzled. "What do you mean?" Ray hesitated. Her fingers played with the hem of her sleeve. She took a slow breath, gathering courage she didn't know she had. "Evan," she said softly, "I feel something strange." He turned more fully toward her, concern on his face. "Strange how? Do you feel hurt? Sick?" Ray shook her head.
No.
"Not hurt." She placed a hand over her heart.
Here.
"Inside. When I am with you." Evan's face softened, but he still didn't understand what she was trying to tell him. Ray looked down, cheeks glowing faintly. "When you smile, I feel warm. When you touch my hand, my heart runs fast." She swallowed nervously. "When I think you may leave, I feel pain." Evan inhaled slowly, realization starting to dawn on him. Ray lifted her eyes to his. They glowed bright and vulnerable in the starlight. "I do not understand human feeling well. But I think," she paused, trembling, "I think my heart changes because of you." Evan stared at her gently, taken by surprise but deeply moved. She shifted closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "You are not like others. You see me.
Help me.
Stay with me." She touched his cheek lightly, soft, hesitant. "I care for you, Evan. More than I should." The confession hung in the air like a fragile, silver thread. Evan didn't speak right away. Ray's heart pounded. Had she made a mistake? Was this wrong? Would he push her away? But Evan didn't pull back. He gently placed his hand over hers, his voice warm and steady. "Ray, you didn't do anything wrong." Her eyes widened. "Not wrong." He shook his head softly.
No.
"Not wrong at all." Ray let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. Her hand trembled under his. Her heart had changed slowly over time, through safety, through trust, through moments where he held her hand and stood by her side. And now she finally understood. She didn't just want protection. She didn't just want safety.
She wanted him.
And that truth frightened her, but it also filled her with a gentle, powerful hope. Years passed like quiet pages turning in a book. Erin was no longer the scared alien teen who once cried in a rusted scrap heap. She had grown taller, stronger, and calmer. Her silver markings had become brighter with age, and her voice carried a confidence that surprised even her. But one thing inside her stayed restless, a feeling she tried to hide, a truth she feared would change everything. And Kai, the human who had raised her, remained the same kind, patient man she had always known. He still woke early to cook breakfast. He still repaired old machines in his workshop. And he still spoke to her with that gentle tone that made her chest feel warm in a way she didn't fully understand until recently. Tonight, something inside her decided it was time. The sky outside their house was dark, filled with deep blue clouds glowing from the distant city lights. Rain tapped softly on the windows. Kai sat at the table, working on a small broken drone, his hands steady and calm. He didn't notice Erin standing at the doorway, her tail wrapped tightly around her leg, a sign she was nervous. "Kai," she said quietly. He looked up. You're up late. Something wrong?" Erin stepped inside. Her heartbeat was louder than the rain. "Can I talk to you? Really talk?" Kai put down his tools immediately. "Of course. Sit."
She didn't sit.
Instead, she stayed standing, hands trembling, eyes unsure. She felt like that scared girl again, the one who had no home, no identity, no trust. Except now, she had all of those things because of him. "Kai," her voice shook. "I've been trying to say this for a long time, but I didn't know how." He gave her a soft, comforting smile. "Whatever it is, you don't have to be afraid. Just tell me." Erin swallowed hard. "It's about how I feel." "About you." Kai blinked, confused but calm. "Okay." Erin's claws lightly tapped against her arm, another nervous habit. "When you found me, I thought you saved me because you pitied me. But later I learned you did it because you cared. No one ever cared like that before." Kai crossed his arms gently on the table, listening. "I grew up here," she continued. "I learned how to live. I learned how to trust people. I learned what kindness feels like. And all of it came from you." Kai opened his mouth to speak, but she lifted a hand.
"Please.
"Let me finish." He nodded. Erin took a slow breath. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. "Somewhere along the way, my feelings changed." Kai's expression tightened, not in anger or fear, but in careful understanding. He sensed where this was going, but he stayed silent. Erin's voice became soft, almost trembling. "I don't see you only as the man who raised me. Not anymore. I tried to ignore it, tried to bury it, but it only grew stronger. Whenever you smile at me, I feel it. Whenever you protect me, I feel it. Whenever you look proud of me." She took a shaky breath. "I feel it the most." Kai sat very still. Erin finally forced the words out, her heart pounding wildly. "Kai, I think I'm in love with you." The room went silent, completely silent. Even the rain seemed to pause outside the window. Kai slowly leaned back in his chair, eyes widening slightly. It wasn't shock from fear or disgust. It was the shock of hearing something he never expected, something he never imagined Erin would feel. "Erin," he whispered, "you all love me?" She nodded, tears forming in the corners of her glowing eyes. "I know it might be wrong. I know you might not feel the same. I know it could make everything complicated. But I couldn't keep it inside anymore. I needed you to know." Kai rubbed his forehead, trying to gather his thoughts. Erin stood there, trembling, waiting for him to say something, anything. Finally, he looked at her with a softness that almost broke her heart. "Erin, I never wanted to hurt you. And I never wanted you to feel alone.
You're important to me."
"More than you realize." Her chest lifted slightly with hope. "But," Kai continued quietly, choosing his words slowly, "your feelings, they're strong because we've lived together so long. Because we trust each other. Because we've struggled side by side. But you're still learning who you are." Erin's eyes lowered. "So you don't feel the same?" "It's not that," he said gently. "It's that I want to be sure. I don't want you to mistake gratitude or safety for love." Erin stepped closer, voice firm despite the tears. "I know what gratitude feels like. This is different." Kai looked into her glowing eyes and saw no fear, only certainty. He stood up. Her breath caught. "Erin," he said softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Your feelings matter. I'll never ignore them. But we need time. Time to understand what this means. Time to be sure neither of us is making a choice that we'll regret." Her tail slowly unwound from her leg. She nodded, wiping a tear. "I can wait." Kai gave her a warm, steady smile. "Then we'll figure it out. Together." And for the first time since she spoke her confession, Erin felt her heart breathe again. Because even though he didn't say he loved her back, he didn't push her away.
He stayed.
And that meant everything. The morning after Erin's confession felt strangely calm. The world outside their home looked the same. Quiet road, soft wind, pale sunlight, but inside, something had changed. Something invisible, but powerful. The air felt fuller, warmer, as if both of them were learning how to breathe in a new way. Erin woke early, unable to sleep. She walked into the workshop and found Kai already there, sitting on a stool and staring at a partly built machine. But he wasn't really focused on it. His mind was clearly somewhere else. She took a careful step inside. Morning. Kai looked up and smiled. Small, gentle, but real. Morning, Erin. Sleep okay? She shook her head. Not really. Me neither, he admitted. For a moment, both of them stayed quiet. Not awkward, just thoughtful. Kai wiped his hands on a cloth and nodded toward the chair across from him. Sit with me? She did, folding her legs neatly, her tail resting around her feet. Kai took a slow breath. Erin, last night meant a lot. You were honest. That takes courage. She nodded. I didn't want to hide anymore. And I don't want us to pretend nothing changed, he said. Because it did. Her chest tightened. Part fear, part hope. So, what now? Kai leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I spent the night thinking.
A lot.
Not about what I should feel, but about what I already feel. Erin's eyes widened just a little. Kai continued, voice steady and quiet. You're not a child anymore. You're strong. You make your own choices. And I respect that. I respect you. Her heartbeat quickened. But my biggest worry, he added, is your freedom. I never want you to feel trapped by the life I gave you. You deserve to discover the world, even the galaxy, on your own terms. Erin understood. Kai wasn't rejecting her. He was protecting her future.
I don't want to leave you, she said.
I don't want you to leave either, Kai replied honestly. But I want us to walk forward because we choose to, not because our past forced us together. She felt a soft ache, but also a warm strength. Then let's choose. Kai breathed out, slow and heavy, as if those words opened something inside him. Before he could speak, the workshop door beeped, a notification on the wall screen. Erin walked over and tapped it open. A transmission. The symbol on the message made her blood run cold. Her species. Her people. Kai immediately stood beside her. What does it say? Erin's voice shook as she read. They located me. They want to talk. They want me to join a diplomatic mission. Her throat tightened. They say I'm old enough now. Kai's jaw clenched, but he stayed calm. A mission? Not to take you away. No, she whispered. It's optional. They say they want to welcome me back after all these years. Kai watched her carefully. Do you want to go? Erin didn't answer right away. The message flickered on the screen, offering what her younger self once dreamed of: belonging, identity, connection to her roots. But now, her heart belonged somewhere else. I don't know, she admitted softly. Part of me wants to see who I was supposed to be, but another part doesn't want to lose what I have now. Kai placed a hand on her shoulder. She leaned into the touch without thinking. You won't lose me, he said. No matter what you choose. If you want to go, I'll support you. If you want to stay, I'll support you. And if you want me to come with you. Erin's eyes snapped up. Would you? He smiled. I've already traveled half the galaxy. I can do the other half with you. For the first time all morning, Erin laughed. A small, shaky laugh, but full of relief. She looked back at the transmission and finally understood something important. This wasn't a choice between two worlds. She didn't have to abandon one to keep the other. She turned to Kai, eyes glowing softly. Then, let's go together. Kai nodded without hesitation.
Together.
Days later, the ship waited for them on the launch platform, a sleek vessel, glowing with silver-blue patterns that matched the markings on Erin's skin. She stood beside Kai, both wearing simple travel gear, bags slung over their shoulders. A representative from her species waited near the entrance, a tall figure with markings nearly identical to Erin's, but much older. Erin, the elder said gently. We welcome you home. Erin glanced at Kai. He gave her an encouraging nod. She stepped forward, And for the first time, she didn't feel lost between two worlds. She felt like she belonged to both. The elder looked at Kai. Human, you have cared for one of ours. We honor that. Kai bowed politely. She's family. Aaron felt her chest warm at the word. Family. Not just guardian and child. Not just rescuer and rescued. Something deeper. Something chosen. They boarded the ship together. The doors closed with a soft hiss. The engines hummed to life. Aaron stood beside Kai as the ship lifted from the platform. She reached out hesitantly. Kai took her hand without needing to be asked. The stars slowly unfolded in front of them. Endless, bright, full of unknowns. Are you ready? Kai asked. Aaron squeezed his hand. Only because you're here. And together, human and alien, bonded by survival, trust, and something still growing between them, they stepped into a new future. Whatever waited in the galaxy, they would face it side by side.